Hey guys, how you going? Hope you're all doing very well. This afternoon I'm going to be doing yet another movie review, so hopefully you find this one interesting. This movie is an action thriller from the USA, English language, released in the year 2022, directed by Robert Eggers, and this film is called The Northman. So The Northman is about a Viking epic where you have a young prince whose father, the king, is murdered by his uncle. So the father's brother, he wanted power for himself, and so he's taken care of the king, and now he wants to kill the prince because he doesn't want any heirs lingering around. So he wants to force the wife of the king to marry him, and so now he is the big figure. So he wants to assassinate the young prince, but the young prince manages to escape, and he escapes with a pledge that he is going to avenge the death of his father and liberate his mother. So many years have passed, and we now realise he is a berserker for a raiding party. Berserkers are these fearsome warriors that is believed that they take the animal spirit of whatever they are, whether they're wolves or bears. They take that fighting spirit. So they're very feared, and this is the life of this main character now, but he has never lost sight of what his life goal is, and that is to avenge his father's death. And he's going to get the opportunity when he realises that his uncle resides in Iceland. So it's going to be a complicated matter in order to get to Iceland, but it's worth the wait because now his plan is about to be set in motion. So what that is something you're going to have to find out for yourself, because that's as far as I'm going with my synopsis. Now my thoughts on The Northman. I didn't really know what to expect with this movie, and the reason is because a lot of Viking TV shows and movies, they are fairly decent, but they don't really capture Norse mythology, and I don't really feel as they do Scandinavia justice, and it doesn't respect their history. And so with the Viking show especially, the Viking show, it does promise to be a Viking epic, but I just don't feel as though it has a lot of Norse mythology in it. And so all the interesting aspects that I want in a Viking story were non-existent in that TV show. Although it was a decent show, I still felt as though there was something missing. And a lot of other Viking movies, they actually have the same problem in that it doesn't feel like a Scandinavian experience. And Scandinavia, you know, being the land of the Viking, it really needs that mythology. It needs that history behind it. And that is the reason why I came into The Northman with limited expectations. But the reason why I was excited is that Robert Eggers is a very good director. I love The Witch. I didn't love The Lighthouse as much as The Witch, but The Lighthouse still possessed a very menacing psychological atmosphere. So I thought if any director is going to actually pay respect to the Scandinavian history, it's going to be Robert Eggers, because he is definitely a student of history, and his movies actually feel as though they take place in this specific time era. So whether it's The Lighthouse or The Witch, it is told in history, and I actually felt like those experiences actually took place when they were set. So I had that excitement that maybe The Northman would be that Viking experience, but the expectations were that it was going to be another letdown as far as that Norse mythology is concerned. But after watching The Northman, I will say it's not a perfect film, but I actually felt as though this finally respected the Scandinavian history and Norse mythology. And that's what I loved about it. This is a very surreal film, and it's a movie that has supernatural elements, but it also is grounded in realism. So you have that Norse mythology, or whether it's the gods or if it's the berserker. The berserker is one of the most fascinating Viking warriors out there, and this is where I actually liked The Northman, because this actually takes the effect of the berserker. This main character is a berserker, and the berserker, they said that they were possessed by the spirit of the fearsome animals that they represented, and a lot of people believe that it was because they were on mushrooms before they went into battle. So they didn't have any fear, and they were the leading warrior. Basically, when a raiding party conducted their raids, the berserker would go first because they didn't fear anything. And so this movie has that drug-fueled sort of surreal quality of that supernatural element, but it is grounded in realism. And there's one particular scene after a raid where these berserkers at the start, they're growling like animals and they have that ferocious sort of outlook, but at the end of that raid, they're all panting like they're humans. And so you're always grounded in that level of reality, so you can't disconnect yourself in a supernatural world. And that's something that I loved, is that it blended the Norse mythology in a very, very intelligent way. And so the whole film has a very nightmarish quality. There's a lot of rituals, ancient sort of Norse rituals that I actually really respected. I thought the scene where the berserkers were going through their preparation for the raid, I thought that was really haunting. And there were some also also very darkly humorous moments as well. And so the movie isn't taking itself too seriously to the point where it's not willing to have a little bit of fun, but it does have fun, but not at the expense of the history that it's trying to depict. And so that was good. I thought the acting from Alexander Skarsgård as the main character, I always felt his main goal was vengeance, and the vengeance was very destructive. And when the destruction actually happens, it is very brutal, very matter of fact. It's not gratuitous violence, but it is very hard hitting, and that's exactly what you'd expect from a Viking epic. And the whole epic sort of quality to this movie is intensified from the Shakespearean sort of element that the movie has in its storytelling. There's a lot of complications, there's a lot of betrayal. You don't know who's going to betray the next person, and so it always keeps you on edge as far as the unpredictability is concerned. So you feel as though you've seen this sort of story before, but the way it's told, I thought was actually quite fluent, and I always wanted to know what was behind the door because I never really expected what I was actually going to get. I thought the cinematography was excellent. Very haunting. It actually captures a very beautiful side of Iceland. It was actually filmed in Iceland, and it shows a very unforgiving landscape, and that unforgiving landscape was the symbolism of the unforgiving sort of life that these Vikings were living. And so you've got that Shakespearean play as far as vengeance is concerned, and when all hell breaks loose, I thought this is where the thrilling aspect really comes in. So it does achieve its goal as far as action is concerned. The end, I thought, was very epic. It was definitely worth a Shakespearean play. It's very extravagant and very theatrical, but I thought as though it really capped off what is an action thriller done in a way that not a lot of other Viking movies and TV shows can do. So that was definitely the best part of the Northman, is that it does understand the Norse mythology and it actually interweaves it with reality in a way that I thought was very unnerving. So it's a very visual film and it's a very barbaric film at the same time. And as I said, the story is being done over and over. It is a very classic sort of revenge story, but I thought it was done in a way that was actually quite thrilling. If I have issues with the movie, is that I thought there were moments in the script that made the film lag from time to time. I thought as though it is an epic sort of length, a 2-hour film, and although the continuity was decent and it never derailed, I always felt there were some moments where it was taking itself a little bit too seriously with the dialogue. It was trying to be a little bit too deep and meaningful, and it just came across as a little bit empty. And so I thought there were moments that was slight filler, but it never derails. I thought the experience was at a very fast pace, but there were moments where I thought we're there just for the sake of it. And so it needed to be that 2-hour movie, and I thought 10 minutes of the film could have been edited a little bit better because I thought the script was lacking to some extent. I thought the characters were interesting, but it's more a case of the story as opposed to gravitating to characters. This is a classical revenge story, as I said, and so you don't really feel for the characters. You just want to look at the theatrical sort of response that the story brings. So if it sounds like your kind of thing, I would highly recommend you go out there and check out Robert Eggers' The Northman. If you are into Norse mythology in the Viking era, I definitely feel as though this really understands it. It's not a perfect film, but it's still a very impressive addition to the list of Robert Eggers' work. So overall for The Northman, going to give this one 4 stars. Go out there and see it. I'm sure you're not going to regret it. All right, guys, that's it for my review. Hope you enjoyed it. Till next, thank you for watching movies, and I'll see you later.